favorite time of year, campaign season. If you are with family during Thanksgiving, the best part is the inevitable political conversations you'll have with that one family member. You'll try to avoid discussing politics with that person, but before you have a chance to react, a seemingly innocent question has been stretched to ridiculous lengths with the sole purpose of trying to prove that you are wrong. They're sitting there, just smiling at you, waiting for an answer, and you're left trying to think of an answer, while you're also remembering why you only see them once a year. In today's gospel reading, we're presented with a very similar situation when the Sadducees start talking to Jesus. Sadducees only believed in the first 5 books of the Old Testament, which doesn't address resurrection, so they didn't believe in it. It's really easy to get them and the Pharisees confused, so in the wise words of a Sunday school teacher, the Pharisees believed in resurrection, but the Sadducees didn't, so they were sad, you see. There are plenty more differences, but for today, these are the only ones that are pertinent. So why, if the Sadducees didn't believe in the resurrection, were they asking Jesus about it? Initially, it sounds like they want to understand, but when they bring up the near endless stream of in-laws turned husband, they quickly become that family member. And why did the woman marry all of her brother-in-laws? I mean, I have 2 brother-in-laws, and while they are lovely people, I wouldn't want to marry them. So the practice of this type of marriage is called levirate marriage. If a man died and had no children, his widow would have to marry his next male relative, which was usually a brother. This happened because women were considered property. If the owner died, someone had to step in and take ownership. So once she died, she must have a lot of in-laws turned husbands waiting for her, obviously. So why is this passage even in the lectionary rotation? As people who live on this side of the resurrection, it doesn't really make sense. I mean, we don't have to be convinced that the resurrection is real. So what use does this passage have? We have plenty of instances of Jesus talking with all manner of people and giving them the perfect answer. Surely we get it. Let's look at verses 34 and 35 again. Jesus said to them, "Those who belong to this age marry and are given in marriage, but those who are considered worthy of a place in that age and in the resurrection from the dead neither marry nor are given in marriage." Women were property. This, to me, is one of the core reasons this text is so powerful. It is not only a text about resurrection, but about liberation. Not only will there be life after death, but when that time comes, everyone will be seen as equals. Everyone will be treated as equals, and everyone will be equals. So when the widow sees all of her former husbands, there is a very clear answer. She belongs to no man, literally. Instead, her value is as a child of God. There's also some subtext to this. They were under Roman occupation, and every aspect of their life was subject to the whims of the Romans. They were, effectively, owned and controlled by them. Even those who weren't women could recognize the great promise of the resurrection and the great freedom that came with it. They would not have to answer to the Romans, but they would also no longer be subservient to anyone else. They would be free and truly allowed to live and worship God with no regulations, no questions, and no human authority to answer to. Of course, for this to work, there has to be resurrection. Jesus' example is that of Moses and the burning bush, where God says who he is God of. We are told that God is the God of the living, yet in the burning bush story, he introduces himself as God of people who have long since died. Following this series of thoughts, the logical conclusion is that which Jesus is telling us. Resurrection is very much real. On top of this, Jesus is showing not so subtle dig at the Sadducees' shortcomings in understanding the scriptures that they adhere to, seeing as the story is one of the first 5 books that they recognize. But what is resurrection? There are some religious traditions that don't allow cremation because they believe that you're going to need your body when you get resurrected. There are plenty of paintings showing these ethereal, ghost-like creatures coming out of the grave, and there are still more paintings of Jesus just walking on out of the tomb. When Jesus is resurrected, Thomas wants to stick his hands in the various wounds. This, combined with Jesus eating with them, shows that Jesus was very much bodily raised, because, as a professor of mine put it, ghosts can't eat Cheetos. Or, in this case, fish. Bodily resurrection was important enough that it's found its way into the Apostles' Creed. In general, bodies are given great value. Christ became fully human. Elijah was taken into heaven. Moses' body shone after talking with God. And people in heaven are even protected from the elements. I like to think of the body kind of as an acorn. When we are buried, our body rots away, much like the outer layer of an acorn. When we are resurrected, we are raised to new life, like a tree that has grown out of the unassuming and, by that point, kind of gross acorn. That, or I've been seeing way too many squirrels and stepping on at least as many acorns this autumn. This is all well and good, but why do we even need bodies? Simply and complicatedly put, our relationship with God is not just spiritual. Having the immaterial experience of being just the soul and being with God for eternity is only part of what we need to truly glorify God. As humans, the tangible is what allows us to live. Being able to move, see, eat, and speak not only encapsulate who we are as God's children, but it is also the vehicle in which we praise and glorify God. We will have a comprehensive resurrection, one that takes our unique human experiences and elevates us to a higher, transcendent level, and not one that takes us to a completely different reality. After all, if our resurrection is something unfamiliar, are we truly and completely resurrected? And will we get the same squishy, somewhat unreliable bodies with their regrettable teenage tattoos? Jesus was resurrected with the injuries of the crucifixion, and while I can't say what our bodies will look like, the thought of people having the poorly drawn tattoos of their first ex's name does bring me some small amount of joy. So, this Thanksgiving, when that relative is sitting across from you and waiting for an answer, take heart. While you may end up stuck with them after the resurrection, at least you won't be stuck with their annoying, loaded questions. However, if you're like most of us and don't have that type of patience, just keep eating. Can't respond if you continually have food in your mouth. Amen.
Amen.